The baby opened her mouth wide, and the dog lunged forward. Her parents screamed. They had it completely backwards. It started on a Tuesday. Petra and Joel Stafford had a 9-month-old daughter named Iris and a 3-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog named Otto, 106 pounds, thick tricolor coat, the kind of dog strangers crossed the street to photograph, gentle by nature, trained by a certified handler, cleared by a veterinary behaviorist before Iris came home from the hospital. He had spent 9 months being exactly what they had hoped. Calm around the baby, attentive without crowding, present without intruding. Then Iris started teething, and everything shifted. The crying changed in pitch when the teething started. Sharper, more sudden, a cry that could come from nowhere in the middle of a quiet room and hit the frequency of distress rather than ordinary infant unhappiness. The first time Otto heard it, he was across the room. He came to his feet and moved toward Iris, in the bouncy chair before either parent registered the sound fully. Petra was a kindergarten teacher, 10 years of experience with small children, trained in infant first aid. She was not someone who startled easily around animals and children. But the speed of Otto's movement and his size and the way he had zeroed in on Iris before she could blink made something cold run through her. She stepped between them. Otto sat. He looked at Iris over Petra's arm, and his nostrils moved in that rapid, shallow way she had noticed before, but never assigned meaning to. He did not back away. He did not redirect. He sat and waited and looked at the baby with an attention that felt different from the attention she was used to seeing from him. The crying stopped. Otto went and lay by the front door, she thought. He startled the baby into silence, she thought. That was a stress response in a large breed dog who was overwhelmed by the sound. She thought, we need to watch this carefully. Joel had a different read. Joel had grown up with working dogs. His family raised them, and he had a sense for what a dog's posture meant at the level of instinct rather than training. He said that night he wasn't reacting to the sound. He was reacting to something in the sound. Petra didn't argue. She noted it. The second time, 3 days later, Iris was on the playmat. She rolled onto her back and produced a cry that was different, the wrong kind of different, a cry that went up in pitch and didn't settle. Otto came from the hallway. He lowered himself to the floor beside the mat, with his face at Iris's level. Nose, 6 inches from her face, holding position, with the sustained stillness of an animal that has decided to stay somewhere. Joel reached to pull him back. Otto moved away from the hand and returned. The third time was a night cry. 2:17 a.m., Petra was already awake and moving toward the nursery when she heard a sound she didn't immediately understand. Otto's body against the nursery door, not scratching, pressing, full body weight, sustained. She opened the door. Iris was in the crib, crying the way she had been crying for the past 11 days, which was to say, not just crying. The sound of an infant who is in pain and cannot locate the source of it, which is different from ordinary infant unhappiness in a way that any parent learns to decode. Otto walked past her and put his front paws on the crib rail, nose over the side. He held that position for 12 seconds, completely still, and then he turned and looked at Petra with the specific expression that dogs produce when they are trying to hand something off. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She turned on the light and picked up Iris and found it immediately. A rash, faint, covering the back of Iris's neck and behind her left ear. The kind of rash that blended with the red of a crying infant's skin and would have been invisible in the dark. Iris had a severe allergic reaction to a new fabric softener used on her sheets that evening. The pediatric allergist, Dr. Tunde Adewale, reviewed the timeline with them. The systemic inflammatory response, he said, produces chemical markers and skin perspiration and respiratory output that can begin hours before the visible rash presents. In an infant with a significant histamine reaction, these markers shift measurably and are detectable to a dog at concentrations far below human sensory threshold. Otto had been responding to Iris's chemistry, not her crying. The cry had been his signal that her chemistry had crossed a threshold he was tracking. The cry was not the emergency. The cry was the confirmation of an emergency already in progress. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Every response they had had to Otto in those 11 days, stepping between them, pulling him back by the hand, filling the space of his approach with their own bodies, had been interference with the only medical monitoring system in the house that was actually calibrated to what was happening. They changed the fabric softener. They removed 3 other products from Iris's environment that Dr. Adewale identified as potential triggers. They did a full allergen panel. They compiled a list of substances Iris would need to avoid for the foreseeable future. Otto's behavior returned to baseline the same day they changed the sheets. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. On the Saturday after they came home from the allergist, Joel sat on the floor of the living room with his back against the sofa, and Otto lay beside him with his head in Joel's lap. Iris was in the bouncy chair, completely fine, watching the ceiling fan with the focused intensity of a 9-month-old who has found her favorite thing. Otto's eyes tracked from the fan to Iris to Joel, back to Iris. His breathing was slow and even under Joel's hand. Joel had grown up watching working dogs read the world for things humans missed. He had never expected to have one in his living room. He had not understood, until this week, that he already did. The next story involves a dog who refused to let a toddler leave through the back door for 6 days. What was in the yard would have changed everything.